welcome to the complete animation of Kida from the Walt Disney Animation Studios classic film, I'm going to say classic, Atlantis, The Lost Empire. This movie is one of those rare examples of a show that just came completely out of left field. It's like, what focus group, what trend could ever have been chased to make this movie happen? And I think it's just indicative of the era of animation that was going on in the early 2000s. You get movies like The Emperor's New Groove, Atlantis, Treasure Planet. Like, who were these movies for? These movies were not going to make, little girls go out and beg their parents for all the merch the way that Frozen does. This movie, like, what toys could you sell in this movie? Like, when boys go to the toy store, like, what item is there that this movie would be tied into? So, yeah, like, and all I can think is, this is another movie that was made for me. Someone who just wants an incredibly told adventure. Just an adventure to go on in the near the turn of the century with almost steampunk slash diesel punk levels of technology. I guess you'd call it like boiler punk, because that's what the big things powering their engines were. And then they go and find an ancient civilization. Oh my goodness, this movie is just so good. And it did not fall into the trap of having CG assets that didn't look the part. Like the Kraken and the Ulysses, that entire sequence of a pre-World War One giant exploration submarine fighting an underwater automaton from a long-lost civilization. It's like there's so much CG in there, but it doesn't look super out of place, which is a big achievement. And like, this movie is just so good, and the animation of the characters is also really good. The people who drew these characters really understood weight. There's a part later on when the character Helga like swings Kida around in like a semicircle to get her onto a platform that's moving down, and just that animation really sold the fact that, even though Kida is, pretty skinny, like, she's still over 100 pounds, and like swinging that around is not a trivial thing. And the character designs are just so appealing, especially Milo. Just his absolutely massive circular glasses. Like, so awesome. And I really like the design of the Atlanteans. White hair, and every one of them carries a crystal around their neck. It's like, that's just so iconic. Like, anybody who's seen this movie, you'd be able to go as one of these characters for Halloween and instantly be recognizable. All you need is just, the light blue, paint to be like the tattoo that they have, and white hair, be it a wig or you dyed her or something, and then wear one of those necklaces with that crystal on it, and boom, instantly recognizable as an Atlantean. But let's talk about Kida. So I believe you pronounce her full name Kidakakash. And it's a really good thing that she's got the nickname Kida, because I don't know. It would be really weird if you had a character with Kidakakash, 4, 5 syllables. Kida Kosh 4, whatever. I can't count. But yeah, so she is a really interesting character. Earlier on, you get to see her wiping the brow of her father, and it's like that scene does so much world building. It's like in the middle of her having a very serious discussion about a difference of opinions about what to do with the outsiders, where she wants to embrace them and all that they have to share, and her dad just wants them gone. It's like, they're having a very serious discussion where they're on opposite sides of the argument, but at the same time, she's wiping his forehead. Like, she's being so gentle with him. It's like, that is such an incredible bit of character development. Just like in that one scene, we're able to instantly recognize that, well, for one thing, they're all really, really old, because he said 1,000 years ago you would have slain them on sight. But she cares deeply about her father. Even though they are clearly in disagreement, the love that she has for him is unmistakable. And so people always talk about, Hollywood is going around making strong female characters the wrong way, where they end up just making them be like macho men and jerks. Kida, she's hardcore, but she's also like super kind and caring. I think that people need to realize that Disney basically mastered the strong, independent female character long before Frozen. Oh my goodness. Elsa and Anna, they have nothing on Kida. And Kida, it's like, it's really hard to explain everything that the character has to offer. But I will say that probably the best bit of character animation is coming right up close when Kida and Milo go diving to learn about the history of Atlantis. Just the way that they make hair flow underwater is so impressive that I'm going to be gushing about it when that bit of footage actually comes, because holy cow, it is so incredible. This movie also, it has like just a level of base wit, just like little jokes here and there. It's like not trying to be a comedy, but it always has something to just keep the mood light, and that's what this movie was going for. It wanted a fun, lighthearted adventure. And oh boy, it got it. So another bit of really interesting animation that goes on during this whole swimming sequence is just the number of times that the characters swim towards and away from the camera. All this foreshortening couldn't have been easy to draw. It's like, I'm pretty sure that bits like this, the animators were just flexing. It's like, yeah, you want to see this character going in all these crazy angles and things? We're going to do that, and we're going to have them be going towards and away from the camera. And oh my goodness. And the backgrounds in this movie are incredible. Just these massive, sprawling landscapes of such detail. Hand-drawn, hand-painted, I don't know how to describe it. It's so good. Just look at her hair here. It's just all around. I think that Kida's hair underwater is something that animators should really be talking about. Just look at that hair. And I love how the crystal is actually useful. It's like a flashlight. So cool. Yeah, I think that this underwater sequence is the best example of character animation this movie has to offer. It's so good. Now, coming up, there's going to be a scene where Kida really kicks some tail. Like when the goons, I think it's cool that this movie has just faceless goons. It's such a thing. um, but yeah, so she gets like pulled out of the water by the goons, and then she grabs a knife and like is about to like she's a fighter. Now, if you look closely, she's not grabbing the knife from the guy. She's grabbing it from herself. And all I gotta say is, the outfit that she was swimming in, where was there room to hold a knife? Because if you look at the knife, like, this is one of the details that I get looking at things frame by frame while I make these. The knife is not a modern knife. It's an Atlantean knife. So how was she carrying that dressed as she was? Now, this sequence right here, where Kida walks out onto the water and becomes one with the crystal, I think that this is probably one of the most powerful sequences in all of animation. Like, not even kidding. It is so measured, so well paced, and the stakes have been driven so high that as you're watching it, you can't help but be invested. The music is firing on all cylinders, and it's just that pacing. There's barely any dialogue, and it is so measured and deliberate. It is just breathtaking. Like, I remember when I was a kid, this scene made such an impression on me that, like, when I was in the shower, I would just be like slowly walking from one end of the shower to the other, pretending that I was Kida, because I don't know, somehow this sequence just made me want to do that. Like, just slowly walk in a water filled environment. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so this movie is underrated, and it had a sequel, and the story of the sequel is interesting. It was proof that not all of the straight to video sequels were made equally, because that one was going to be a lower budget TV series, but when they decided that they didn't want to have the whole series, they just stopped at 3 pilot episodes, and then they just added a few more sequences of animation to stitch them all together and make a somewhat cohesive story. I haven't seen that in forever, but even like when I was young and didn't have an eye for animation, I could tell that the animation was of a much lower quality. But to be honest, I don't think this movie needs a sequel. I think it's another one of those movies that is perfect just the way it is. It needs no follow up, it needs no extra anything. And visually, it's very unique. The characters have a very flat design. Like when it's just neutral lighting, the characters aren't they don't have a bunch of shading to show like definition and things. Like, their entire body and all their clothing are basically just one flat color, and their fingers are sort of angular. That's one of the things that I really noticed before. It's like the tips of their fingers are almost squarish for a bunch of the characters. And like, it is such a unique art style, and I'm glad that we have it. See, this is one of the problems with making a complete animation of a single character that is a pretty major character. I start to run out of things that I want to say. Like, I gush about how awesome the movie is. I gush about how awesome that character is. I gush about how awesome the visuals are and the animation. And once I'm done gushing, I can't, I don't, I'm not an endless fountain of unique takes. But I have to keep the commentary up, lest I incur the wrath of the content ID, because, oh my goodness, like, people who want to make content all about, you know, copyrighted material like this, they have a rough time of it, because it's not worth trying to get to ask copyright holders to release their claims on your videos. It's not worth it. Like, they hardly ever do it. And so you can be someone like me who has to fiddle with the footage so much that YouTube's content ID system won't flag it. And I'll probably have to do it for this video, because I record the audio before I upload it for the first time. Although sometimes I'm lucky, and the very first time I upload it, and YouTube's content ID is like, hey, no matches found, this can go, no problems. But sometimes I have to spend like another 3 hours tweaking the footage, doing the cropping in and out frame by frame to try and get through content ID. But hey, the reason I do this is because I like the animation so much, and it was a joy to scrub through this movie frame by frame. There are so many frames of just excellent still shots. Yeah. So, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.